So my name is Kuba. Today I will tell you about the road to reliable frontend with Ember.js. I will make a short introduction to Ember architecture and then describe my real case example from the company I'm working at. So who am I? I am Kuba. I'm software developer and team leader at NetGuru. I work mostly with Ember.js, Rails, and a little bit with React. You can check out my work at my blog, Niechciał.me. Check out my former presentations at slides.com. And of course, check out my Twitter. So what is Ember? Officially, the definition of Ember is the framework for creating ambitious web applications. I'd rather add a couple of words. I would say that Ember is a very opinionated framework for creating ambitious and maintainable web applications on time. And basically why? Because Ember has a lot of abstractions and a lot of out-of-the-box working solutions that I will show you in a minute. So let's dive into the architecture, and basically Ember.js is model view controller root framework for frontend. I'll describe each of these abstractions starting from routing, and the basic root configuration object is the router that defines what are all accessible routes in our frontend application. It supports all of the things like nesting and the dynamic segments and so on. And what's really interesting in Ember.js routing is that nested routes are basically rendered inside each other, not instead of each other, which means that it may be a little bit difficult to get at the beginning, but it means that only parts of applications are being re-rendered and only parts of application are losing their state during transitions. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It depends on how we define our routing and our router. The basic route definition is very simple. Of course, it has its life cycle with model, like before model, after model hooks, where model is basically the function that its result is our data in the route. What's nice, and the first example of out-of-the-box solutions in Ember, is that if we define two routes and make a transition between them, like posts and post/1, if the user transits from one route to another, the router is automatically taking care of the state machine and is going with user through loading route. It's hard to see here. And this loading and error route are automatically added to our application, are very easily customized, and thus from the day one of our working, we can easily add some nice UI to routing, like spinners and so on, without any additional work. It's just a matter of putting one HTML sliding element, and the UI is more fluid for end user. Moving to controller, I won't stay long here because they are depreciated basically in Ember.js, but still present. Controllers are singletons for storing application data, application state, and the Ember.js core team, same as Redux team, found out that it's bad to store application state in a lot of singleton objects, and the single source of truth is better. So they depreciated the controllers, and it's not supported to use them in our application, but we still have to use it. But we can just leave them empty and take care everything with something different, which I would say about in a moment. Like sample definition of controller, also very view. So presentation layer is handled by handlebars.js. I don't know if somebody have heard about this. It's very similar to HTML, but of course it's not. And we write in this like in HTML, and then handlebars engine is transforming it into data structures that are then recognize what's dynamic, what's static, and printing everything in HTML. And views basically they are the presentation layer for controllers. but since controllers are depreciated, we use something different, and it's called, of course, components. And the components, like in React, are everywhere. Everything is based on component, and the only thing that the controller is useful now is the global component to render the other components. What's really nice about Ember.js and Ember core team is that not like Angular, they are not dropping the Ember 1 and making Ember 2. They introduced component and routable components and React style architecture step by step since like a year or something like this. And every change of version doesn't break any API. So, for example, maybe I will talk about my example later, but I will come back to this. Like execution of component look like this. It's like in React, we just put the name of component, pass some props to it. The definition is split it in two files, logic and view in handlebars. Logic is very similar in design pattern as in React, so we get some props, we get some functions that are our actions, and we don't change the data itself in components. We execute the functions passed to components, and the parent component, which is the it can be a parent component or even a root object that is a parent of data, is changing the data itself, passing it back to the component after the change. Of course, components like in React has their life cycle at a little bit small letters here, but actually this life cycle is identical like in React, only the names are a little bit different. And thanks to this deterministic life cycle, Ember.js is also based on virtual DOM, so it's similarly fast as React in rendering, of course. Because the whole engine is a little bit slower, because it's a framework, not a library. And the most interesting part of architecture in Ember.js is definitely model, because the model layer is called Ember Data, and it's basically another library with very extensive abstractions over manipulating data. It's based on adapter pattern, and its simple schema look like this. If we get a response from our backend, this response is going through Ember adapter that is analyzing the response based on the request it has made and choosing the proper serializer to deserialize the data, take model definition, build a model instance called record, and store this record in global source of cached data called store. And Ember Data, thanks to this adapter pattern, actually doesn't matter if we are using active model serializer, JSON plain, JSON API, REST, or Firebase, or anything else. It's independent of protocol, so we can use HTTP or WebSockets, and Ember Data API will always be the same. So front-end developers, really doesn't matter if our backend is Rails or Python or something else, or WebSockets even like Firebase, the front end always look the same. Ember Data also provides ready out-of-the-box solutions for caching, for querying, handling metadata, handling relationships, attributes, polymorphism between relationships, and so on. And it's similar. The complexity of it is like similar to Active Record in Rails. Like everything is out of the box. Maybe it's not the best solution, but it always works for to move the work forward. And only if you really need to customize things, you'll dive into to understand what really is going on down there. The definition is also straightforward, like no boilerplate. You just define attributes and relationships. And tooling, as mentioned already, Ember CLI and Angular CLI is based on Ember CLI. Ember CLI is a command line interface that is shipped with Ember, and basically it handles for us the whole build process of application, dependency management. We don't have to worry about Ember add-ons and so on. There are commands for this. It provides us with ready-to-use test framework. It can even handle deployments, but doesn't have to. And of course, serving our application go through development phase. Like, it has nothing with famous nowadays JavaScript fatigue with tooling. Like, every tool is doing something different, you don't know what to choose. In Ember, you always choose Ember CLI, and you are like 100% sure that if it will work, and it will work good always. So a real case, I was like a year-end project that I was there from almost the beginning to almost the end. And this project was basically the first major and quite huge Ember production up in NetGuru. The first commercial production application for customer. And the whole developer team, and I was in this team, basically doesn't know anything about Ember when we started the project. We were only experienced in JavaScript, but Ember was something new for us, but we thought that, okay, we have some internal experience in some other applications that were not written by us, but we have guys in the company that understand a little bit Ember, so we will take care. And the goal was to ship on time, of course, but also develop some good practices and see how does it work to work with Ember on commercial application. So how was the team, and what was the team basically? There was like 2 or 3 developers simultaneously in the project, and there was 5 of us that were rotating through the year, and over 10 different junior developers, every one of them for 1 month, and none of us out of these 15 people doesn't know Ember at the beginning. And actually did impact anyhow the project. Well, the first 1 or 2 weeks were a little bit slower. You know, you have to understand what's going on a little bit, like know where the files are in directories. But from the day 1, we could ship features and just work with the framework like we already knew it. It's very easy to get started. It's very easy to ship features and to ship new views and so on. But the same as in Angular, it's harder to really get a grasp what's going on under the hood. But to ship application and to work from the day 1 is basically perfect. And the results, of course, we shipped the application on time with success. We used all the good and supported design patterns in Ember community, which are the same as in React, so data down, actions up, use components, and so on. We jumped, and this is really important here, because we moved for 8 minor versions of Ember throughout this year and 1 major, and it wasn't hard basically. Between every version there were some depreciation, there were some warnings to fix, but with a little bit of refactoring every 6 weeks, we could jump major version without just changing the technology to another framework and so on. And of course, the test coverage was maybe not exceptional, but it includes all the types of testing in Ember, so unit integration, acceptance, and so on. So to sum up, I would say that Ember is very good, very stable right now, and a very extensive framework that uses every new pattern and every new up-to-date approach to front-end programming, like React and so on. It's really, we can say it's like I forget the one, so but it's really nice. It's like in React. It has a lot of abstractions over rendering, over data, over routing. Definitely over data. This really important and worth to remember. And thanks to these abstractions, it has a lot of opinionated approach to common problems that we have during web development. If we want to, write another very huge website like Airbnb or Facebook, it may be not a perfect choice to choose very extensive framework, but if you want to build quickly and reliably and on time, this is a perfect choice for like rapid prototyping. And also, this is like the only framework that I know that has long-term support versions. So there are versions of Ember that will be supported for next 2 years, and you can just be sure that if you choose this framework and this version for your project, you won't be alone in 1 year or something like this. So that's all about my presentation. Thanks. And if you go to slides.com, you will have some more links at the end. And that's it. Thanks.
Any questions? Anyone? Yeah.
Skoro uważasz, że Ember jest taki super, znaczy ja też tak uważam, bo w Wiki też korzystamy z Embera, to czy masz jakieś podejrzenia, dlaczego jego popularność jest tak mała?
Szczerze mówiąc, myślę, że nie ma za nim takiego wielkiego poparcia dużych firm. Nie? Za Angularem mamy Google'a, za Reactem mamy Facebooka.
Jeden z kontrybutorów głównych Embera też przypadkiem nie był z Google'a, tylko nie jest to tak firmowane.
Znaczy być może tak, ale to na pewno nie jest jakby wtedy związane marką, nie? To nie jest takie oficjalne. Być może ktoś tam w korze jest z Google'a. Na pewno jest Yehuda, który robił Railsy. No i jest Robert Jackson, który pracuje w Twitchu. Z Yahoo goście też mocno wspierają Embera. Intercom cały jest na Emberze. Ta aplikacja frontowa. Więc jakby jest kilka takich firm dużych, które wspierają, ale no brakuje marketingu, brakuje dobrego sprzedania. Duże środowiska emberowe są w Londynie i w Stanach. I w Stanach dosyć wszędzie, nie tylko w Silicon Valley, nie? Nawet w takich mniejszych miejscowościach są w miarę regularne meetingi. Natomiast tutaj w naszej takiej Europie centralnej, no to nie bardzo. Brakuje tego wsparcia.
Dlaczego w waszym projekcie wybraliście Embera? Ewentualnie co rozważaliście jako alternatywy?
To było mniej więcej półtora roku temu, kiedy zaczynaliśmy projekt. Z Reacta nie mieliśmy nikogo, kto byłby doświadczony, więc jakby nie mogliśmy sobie pozwolić na to, żeby wziąć Reacta. A z Embera mieliśmy po prostu w innych projektach ludzi, którzy coś tam pisali, wewnętrzne aplikacje, więc w miarę wiedzieli, mogliby pomóc jak coś. Do wyboru mieliśmy jeszcze Angulara, który tam na górę dosyć sporo ludzi zna Angulara, albo znało, ale nie wybraliśmy z powodu tego, że porzucili jedynkę i zaczęli robić dwójkę w becie. A to była aplikacja, która było wiadome, że będzie rozwijana jeszcze przez parę lat i że jakby scope jest na tyle duży, że nie damy rady jej zrobić tam w rok czy coś takiego, to że projekt się skończył, to nie znaczy, że projekt nie jest rozwijany, nie? Został po prostu oddany klientowi, klient sobie go rozwija, więc stwierdziliśmy, że byłoby to jakby nieodpowiedzialne, gdybyśmy oddali mu aplikację we frameworku, który wyszła dwójka i sorry, nie?
Na przeznaczenie Aurelia, bo swego czasu był taki moment, gdzie właśnie wychodził jeszcze, znaczy Angular 2 był w takich wczesnych powijakach i z jedynki już ludzie nie chcieli korzystać i tworzyć nowych projektów, bo zaraz miał być dwójka. I Aurelia się dosyć mocno wybijała z takich...
Znowu powód jest ten sam, jakby jako firma dajemy pewność, że zrobimy to dobrze. Nie mieliśmy ludzi, którzy znają Aurelię, więc nie wybieramy takich rzeczy. Tylko dlatego. Jakby mieliśmy pewność, że w Emberze dostarczymy to, a przy okazji rozwiniemy tą technologię u siebie w firmie, no i się udało.
Dzięki, Jakub. Masz od nas specjalną nagrodę od organizatorów tutaj za prowadzenie po angielsku.
Dzięki.
Nagroda niespodziankę.
Dzięki.
Michał Zdudek.